I was born and raised in Pakistan, but I have spent majority of my adult life abroad, specifically in Europe. I have also been fortunate enough to be able to travel majority of the Western world, including US and Canada, and quite a lot of Europe as well. And this experience has given me a very unique viewpoint on how people in different cultures view different things. Since majority of my audience is European and Western in general, so I just wanted to talk about a few very cool and interesting things that might be considered absolutely crazy and ridiculous in the Western part of the world, but absolutely normal here in Pakistan. That is my home country. Before I go ahead, I just want to say one thing, that these things might not be specifically unique to Pakistan. A lot of my Indian friends and viewers might come here and they would say, oh, this is absolutely similar how we do things in India as well. But since I am from Pakistan, I'm considering Pakistan for this particular video. So without any further wait, let's go ahead. Number one, and that is arranged marriages. What exactly does it mean by arranged marriages? Arranged marriage is when your family, your parents specifically, choose the person that you're supposed to marry. Now, it doesn't exactly mean that the parents are going out there and then they're selecting the girl and you just find out that, yeah, you're marrying this person tomorrow. Even though quite a lot of years ago in the older generation, my parents and their parents, this is exactly how marriages would happen. But even in Pakistan to this day, arranged marriages are very, very common. What this means exactly is that the parents go out and they become a sort of matchmakers. They find out about other families, about other prospective matches, whether it is a girl or a guy, and they sort of like make sure that the parents agree with the family of the other family. Because the thing about marriages here in Pakistan and majority of the Eastern culture as well is that it's not just a union between two people. It is a union of two different families, and it has always been like that through history. So this means that it is kind of very important that the mother-in-law likes the mother and the father-in-law likes the father of the bride or the groom as well. So arranged marriages are very, very common here in Pakistan, even though the culture is changing quite much. I mean, parents are giving more and more freedom to the children to choose the person that they like or they want to be with. But even though it is gaining traction, arranged marriage is still the default way how people get married here in Pakistan. And the interesting thing is that the ratio of divorces is not particularly different when it comes to arranged versus love marriages, where you know the person by yourself and you marry them. And there isn't much of a difference between these two different types of marriages. But for my European audience and for my Western audience in general, this seems like absolutely ridiculous. Like, how could you even spend a day with a person, let alone marry them, without knowing them first, without spending them? I mean, in Estonia, the country where I lived the majority of my life, I know people who have been living with their partners, their girlfriends or boyfriends for more than 15 years. They have kids, but they haven't married at all because marriage for them is just a legal paperwork. So it's absolutely ridiculous for them when I tell them that this is how marriages happen in Pakistan. But this is how it is. Number two, and that is prolonged bargaining in shops. I'm sure you must have seen, if you have ever been to any Asian country, that things are not exactly how they seem. I mean, you have to negotiate, you have to ask for a lower price, and then you have to bid lower, and then you reach a sort of like a middle price. And then you spend a lot of time, even for very, very small things. And that thing is very, very common in Pakistan. And for that, there is a very, good reason. The thing is that for items that are indigenously produced in Pakistan and that are sold by common traders, there is not very unique cost structure. Like, for example, if I'm buying, for example, construction material in Pakistan that is indigenously produced, I can get very, very different prices here. I can give you a very simple example. So we wanted to buy some construction material, and I went there first by myself, and then I asked, like, how much does this cost? And the person gave me an answer of like 15,000 Pakistani rupees. After that, I asked the contractor to go inside and then ask them for the price. And the price immediately dropped to 9,000. He was giving almost half the price to the person that was going there. And because there is no check and balance, there is no cost authority that can take checks over every retailer in Pakistan, this becomes like a negotiating thing as soon as you see the other person. So for example, if you see a person that is, oh, I don't know, he's coming from a very nice car, he looks more like educated, he's dressed well, your price would immediately go up by more than double. And if the person is coming from like on a bicycle or a motorbike and he doesn't look too well educated and he doesn't look too rich, price would immediately drop. So that is why haggling is so common in Pakistan, and people actually spend a lot of time, a lot. It's frustrating to see, for example, if I go with my family and they want to buy some things, to just see that, okay, we are haggling over some like a few dollars and then just absolutely refusing to buy it at all. But I mean, it's an experience. I mean, you need to have that kind of an experience, and it's kind of refreshing. It kind of lets the frustration out of the people as well. So yeah. Number 3, and that is obsession with fair skin in Pakistan. Now, when I was a young kid in Pakistan, there used to be a skin whitening cream called Fair and Lovely. And it used to have advertisements like the girl is struggling, she's not getting suitable matches, she's not getting married. On top of that, she's not getting the kind of promotion that she wanted as well at work. And suddenly she gets a hold of this cream, Fair and Lovely, and then her skin becomes whiter and fairer, and everything seems to go absolutely fabulous in her life. This obsession with fairness or white color is like really common in Pakistan, and I would say then in India as well. But I wanted to understand like where exactly does this come from, and it comes from a few different reasons. The first one, I think that is the biggest, is the colonial legacy. Like we had our British overlords for close to 100 years, and since they were like the top of the food chain, they were like the masters, we somehow got in our heads that this is what status should be like these are the masters, those look fair and white, and that is how I can increase my status in the society. Colonial legacy. I think colonial legacy is a big part of why we are so fascinated by fair skin. Number 2, having fair skin actually means that you don't really go out and work on the field, because if you go out and work on the field, you're definitely getting tanned, and you will definitely be considered a person who works manually or who goes outside and who doesn't really stay inside in the air conditioner. Now, my European friends would be scratching their heads to understand what exactly am I saying, because in Europe, having a tan skin is considered a mark of being rich. Because if you have tan skin, this means that you can afford vacations, and you can not just afford vacations, but you can actually go to these southern countries and get tanned there. It's like absolutely completely opposite in Pakistan, where darker skin or tan skin is considered a mark of, you know, like a lower status. And to this day, still, you know, it's still a struggle, even though we have come very far. It's quite a lot of struggle for women to find suitable matches if they have a much darker skin. But you know, I mentioned this brand called Fair and Lovely before. They changed their brand name to Glow and Lovely because the term fair got out of fashion, and they wanted to focus more on not just the color, the fairness, but actually, you know, like the healthiness of your skin. But sadly, their advertisements haven't really changed that much. I mean, they're still glorifying fairness and white skin as a mark of, you know, being healthy or being liked or being approved by the society in general. But I want to end this point on a very, very interesting note, and that is not all brands were like that. Not all brands craved for, you know, going for fairness, because there was this one brand, our National Airlines, back in 1971, they made this ad where they said that this is our unfair advantage, where a much tanned and darker skinned lady was the highlight of the ad. And it's just, you know, like so good to see that even back in 1971, we still had some creative people and brands that actually thought that this was something really progressive that they should do. And it's kind of sad to see all that go down to drain in 2024. But that's a whole another thing about our national airlines. Let's move ahead. Number 4, and this is probably going to freak you out the most, and that is cousin marriages. Yes, Pakistan ranks number 1 in the world for people that marry their first cousins. Of all the marriages in Pakistan that happen, 64% of them are between first cousins, like within the family. And that is, it's just so ridiculous if you look at it from the perspective of an outsider, or a Westerner. But this has a lot of many different reasons. I mean, coming from history, coming from culture, religion, and all that. But I will just mention a very, very few here. The first thing is that marrying within family was a way to consolidate power and your status and wealth. Because in older times, if you marry within your family, and then all of the wealth and status would somehow stay within the family. And to this day, this is still practiced to a degree. The second thing that I also see, like, we have a very general distrust of people and strangers. It's a sad thing, but it is very prevalent in the Pakistani society in general. And somehow marrying somebody from within family gives us this comfort and, this reassurance that this person would not turn out to be someone bad. Even though in practice it actually doesn't really turn out that way. But regardless of whatever the reasons are for these kinds of marriages, they are resulting in a huge epidemic of genetic disorders. For example, sickle cell anemia or thalassemia. These are becoming more prevalent day by day, particularly and specifically because of this marriage within family that does not diversify your gene pool. It's actually being highlighted by doctors quite a lot. And we can see a little bit of a trend shifting in the urban areas, but in the rural areas is still very, very prevalent. And it's kind of really sad to say, but this figure that I mentioned, 64%, hasn't changed for the last 40 years. I don't know what will happen, that this thing is actually harming our future generations. It's absolutely crazy if you think from a perspective of a Westerner or from somebody looking from the outside. But if you're here in Pakistan, it's absolutely completely normal. Number 5, you don't see women outside. I mean, you do see women outside sometimes, but not as much. Like, women constitute almost 50% of the population of Pakistan. But when you go outside, you hardly see any women. And that is actually reflected in the statistics as well. In the female labor participation in the workforce, Pakistan has a participation percentage of 25%. Pakistan ranks 167 among 118 countries when it comes to women participation in the workforce. And there are a number of reasons for that. One of the biggest reasons is that women have a lot of difficulty in mobility when they go outside. I mean, not everybody can afford a car, but motorcycle or scooters are a cheaper way to travel. And for so many years, scooters and motorcycles were considered a taboo for a woman to drive. And I see that it's changing, but it's like trickling change that is happening. It's not as much how as it should be. The second thing is the law and order and safety situation, because unfortunately we don't have that kind of a safety net, the structure that enables, women to go outside and understand that, okay, I am completely safe no matter where I go, because that is not the case. And that in turn prevents women from going out into the workforce in the numbers that they should. Estonia, for example, has a women labor force percentage of 49%. So it's almost half of their workforce is women. And one of the biggest reasons why I feel Pakistan is stuck economically in this quagmire is exactly because we have stunted the growth of half of our population and not letting them participate in the development of our economy. I hope it changes, because we have some really good examples, particularly from Bangladesh, how they have increased their participation of the women workforce. India is also a really good example, because from all the people that I see who went to India, they say that as soon as they go to India, they see that the women are there in such a huge numbers. Like, they are selling things, they are there on the stalls, they are there on the roads, and it's like completely different from Pakistan. So I really hope that with changing times, we figure this out in some way that we can make it possible. But anyway, this was the final thing. I left out a huge number of other points as well. And if you want to see a part 2 of crazy things considered completely normal in Pakistan, then write down in the comments below. And I will see you in the next one. Bye.